Good afternoon. Anticipation is building ahead of Game 3 of the American League Division Series. The Toronto Blue Jays are in New York with a chance to move on to the ALCS with a win tonight.
Fans are hoping the team can wrap up the series after 2 decisive wins here at home. Our Siobhan Leathong is live outside Yankees Stadium in New York City this noon hour. And our Jessica Smith is at Rogers Center talking with Jays fans who are watching from this city. Let's start with Sean in New York. Tell us about the mood there today with the hometown team down 2 games to none.
Well, Michelle and Nathan, Yankees fans, when they're scared, they tend to lash out. So early this morning, we were getting heckled from people as they drove by right away, but it was all in fun, as many fans were saying that they do respect that this Blue Jays team can really bring it to Yankee Stadium. In the last couple of games, we know the Blue Jays have actually put up 23 runs. So Yankees fans are a little bit scared, but they say they are coming into Yankee Stadium. It is the most famous stadium in baseball. It is the most arguably the most hostile fan base in baseball. So the Jays do have their work cut out for them. A little while ago, I spoke to a few Yankees fans. Here's what they had to say.
The Yankees got to win. That's what's going on.
Will they?
Yeah, I got confidence. I got faith in them.
How do you feel about the game tonight?
Pretty nervous.
And why is that?
Because they put up 20 runs.
23 runs, actually.
Yeah, 23.
We're here for the night, so we're here that we hope everybody hits a home run. We want a high-scoring game. We don't want a pitching duel first.
Finito.
Yankees are done.
Yeah, no mañana, no mañana.
So you heard the last gentleman there. He thought they were done, and we've had a few fans who think that they possibly can't come back from this. One was saying they might win one more, but they think the Blue Jays are just too strong of a team. We know that Shane Bieber is going to the mound tonight for the Blue Jays to get the start. Carlos Rodon for the New York Yankees will get the start. It should be an excellent game. The Blue Jays fans know that Vladdy Guerrero has been hot, and Yankee fans know that Vlad Guerrero saves his best for Yankee Stadium. So they're expecting a lot tonight. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. I'll send it back to you inside.
I can't wait for the game. Thanks, Sean. And as we mentioned, Jessica Smith is inside the Jays store at the Rogers Center. And Jess, it's not an understatement to say fans are very excited about the team's chances.
Listen. Since they opened at 10 a.m., the Jays fans are primed and ready. I'm going to start with Oris. Now, you've got a Savage jersey on. We know that he had one heck of a game, but talk to me about why you wanted to come in and buy your first jersey, you said, since
1992.
Since 1992.
Your Savage is just an animal on that mound.
Yeah.
Incredible. This kid is great.
Yeah.
Jays, if you don't sign him long term, you got a serious problem with staff. Come on, sign the kid.
Honestly, it was one of those life-changing games. We saw the interviews with him and his family afterwards. It made everybody emotional, myself included. What are you looking forward to with the game tonight? Because it's a big one. He's not starting tonight, but we've got a really big game. We could take it. What do you think?
3-0. Jays are going to sweep. Goodbye, Yankees. Nice knowing you.
It's been real. And we're going to flip it over to introduce yourself. What's your first name?
My name is Lise Michelin.
And they are from Montreal. Are you guys big Jays fans?
Of course. Of course.
Can I get a big Let's Go Blue Jays?
Let's go Blue Jays.
Whoa. There we go. Listen, people have been lining in here, coming in, buying new gear. The first time since 1992. Oris is ready here.
First time. Finally can get into a jersey that before my 92 jersey, no, sorry, couldn't get into it.
Listen, you got to treat yourself. We are going to have more throughout the day. We're going to be at Celebration Square a little bit later on in Mississauga. So shout out to all the Jays fans. A big Let's Go Blue Jays.
Let's go Jays!
That's what I'm talking about. We'll send it back inside.
All right, a real fan. Thank you both. There we go. All right, still ahead this noon hour, the Premier responds to a plea from some Ontario mayors to keep speed cameras on city streets. We'll hear from Doug Ford on why he's saying no to their request.
This is a day of somber remembrance in Israel where 1,200 people were killed in an attack by Hamas-led militants 2 years ago. 251 others were abducted. Families and friends of the victims of the October 7th attack visited the site of the Nova Music Festival, which is where nearly 400 people were killed and dozens were taken hostage. Over the last 2 years, it has emerged as a memorial site with portraits of the kidnapped and the fallen. There was no official ceremony today due to a Jewish holiday, but thousands were there to pay tribute.
The sound of the guns that we hear right now We don't understand it. We want that the peace will stop, the fire will stop, so all the hostages, all the hostages will come back.
Nothing else is important. Nothing else is can be complete because she's my heart, and they took it from me.
7 Canadians were among those killed. Prime Minister Carney posted a statement on X that reads, 2 years ago, young Israeli music lovers gathered at a peaceful festival when the terrorist organization Hamas launched the deadliest attack on the Jewish people since the Holocaust. On this day and every day, we stand with the victims, their families, and their communities who continue to carry unimaginable grief.
Here at home, there are commemorations of the day within Toronto's Jewish community.
There was also an increased police presence around the city's synagogues and Jewish community centers. CTV's John Musselman joins us this noon hour near Bathurst and Lawrence. John.
Hi, Michelle. Yes, we're just south of Lawrence on Bathurst. As you can see behind me, police do have a command center in the parking lot. This is all precautionary as we mark the 2nd anniversary of the terrorist-led Hamas attacks on Israel. Now, we also had a chance to talk to people today about the 2-year anniversary, how they're dealing with this. There is a somber mood in many parts of the Jewish community. We had a chance as well to stop by a well-known Jewish bakery in the neighborhood, and we spoke to the owner. They are really hopeful that the hostages can be returned. We had a chance to speak to some people today. Here's what they had to tell us just a short time ago.
They share memories of the people that they knew, their relatives who have been killed, who are still being held as hostage. And our community collectively feels the responsibility to mourn with them and to support them and to show that as Canadians and as Jews, we are not alone.
I hope the hostages are going to be free and bring them home peacefully.
And many in the community are keeping a close eye on the possible ceasefire talks going on in Egypt. Now, this war has led to more than 65,000 Palestinians dying in the war since it began 2 years ago. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. We have more news in a moment, but first, here's a live look at the city this afternoon. Certainly a change in the air, more clouds, cooler. Rain also in the forecast. Weather you would expect this time of year. How long before the rain moves on? Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions. Hey, Lindsay.
Well, Nathan, we're not exactly in the clear just yet, even though it's not raining in many parts of the GTA. We did have some very heavy downpours early on this morning. We're getting a little bit of a break, not so much from Hamilton to Niagara. This is where we expected some of the heaviest rain was going to be today. But we've got another round that's going to push through for the GTA as we make our way through the afternoon today. Maybe even some embedded thunderstorms. Now, you mentioned a little bit of a change in the air. Winds right now are still coming from a bit of a southwesterly direction, but hey, see those colors? You can kind of make out where the cold front is. Colder air behind it, still warm and quite muggy this hour in the city of Toronto. It feels like 26. We have already reached our forecast daytime high for today, which is 21. And once again, through the afternoon, we've got the chance of showers and the risk of storms. Southwest winds are going to become northwest for tomorrow, so it gets even cooler. But at least the sun is going to return. Coming up, we will take you through the forecast right into the Thanksgiving long weekend, and we're going to take a look at when the rain impacting us is going to impact New York State. So stay tuned for that. For now, Michelle, I'll send it over to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. Police now say it was a 78-year-old woman who died after being struck by a TTC bus at Royal York Station yesterday afternoon. This happened just before 1:30 near Bloor and Royal York. Police say the woman was attempting to board a bus. As it was pulling away from the station, she fell and was pinned under the bus. The woman was pronounced dead there on the scene. Police say their investigation is ongoing. And the TTC released a statement which reads in part, on behalf of everyone at the TTC, I extend our deepest condolences to the individual's family and loved ones during this incredibly difficult time. We are working closely with the Toronto Police Service as they investigate the circumstances surrounding this tragic incident.
Durham Regional Police are investigating the discovery of what appear to be human remains in Pickering. They were found yesterday near William Jackson Drive and Taunton Road. So far, police haven't released details about the discovery, other than to say a heavy police presence is expected in the area. William Jackson Drive between Taunton and Earl Grey will be closed for an extended period as police investigate. And a man was rushed to hospital after a stabbing in St. Jamestown last night. Toronto police received reports of a man who'd been stabbed near Wellesley and Bleecker Street around 9:45. He was taken to hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Police say the suspect left the scene but provided no description. The investigation is ongoing.
An e-bike rider suffered serious injuries after a collision in Scarborough last night. The e-bike colliding with a vehicle near Morningside and Staines Road around 7:30 last night. Police say the e-bike operator's injuries were initially considered life-threatening, but the person is now expected to survive. The driver of the other vehicle involved remained on scene. And fire crews tackled a blaze at a waste transfer station in Scarborough. They responded to the city facility on Transfer Place last night near Markham Road and Nugget Avenue. It was just after 6. The fire burned through the roof of the structure, but no injuries were reported.
Parents and advocates are raising the alarm over concerns regarding special education class sizes in Ontario.
At issue, a decision made by the provincially appointed supervisor. CTV's Beth McTonnell is live this noon hour with those details. Beth.
Trustees and the NDP are raising concerns about what they're calling cuts to special education in the TDSB. The NDP is saying the government-appointed supervisor made cuts to special education in September, and schools are feeling the impact now. So this group gathered outside Lucy McCormick Senior School in the West End near Dundas and Keele. They say this school lost 2 teachers along with another teacher from Beverly School, and there was the cancellation of grade 9 enrollment at Hayden Park Secondary School. I got a statement from the from the provincial government just a few moments ago, and the government saying the NDP's claims are baseless and untrue. It says this year, as our government has done every year since 2018, we have increased funding for TDSB, including an over $5 million increase for special education this year alone. It goes on to say, like all school boards across the province, the TDSB is undergoing a reorganization at the beginning of the year to account for differences between projected enrollments that were first determined in the spring and the actual number of students who enroll in the fall. And while this happens every year, the impact this year is much larger because in the spring, the board, under the stewardship of trustees, significantly overestimated enrollment projections. So here today, still, with these cuts, parents with students who are going to these schools are really, really worried, especially ones with high needs, and especially when it comes to the safety of their kids at the school if there are less education assistants or teachers in their classroom.
And the moment you make cuts and you start to remove staff, that expertise is gone. You know what I'm saying? And so that's a waste of our resources and the money that's been put into educating them,
Every single student deserves a high-quality education, every single one. And caring and responsible governments do the right thing and invest in our schools. They don't cut. We're calling on the Conservatives to reverse this cut to special education and invest in our schools because it's the right thing to do, it's the responsible thing to do.
The group here today is really expressing a lot of frustration. They don't seem to understand why the most vulnerable students in the TDSB are enduring these cuts. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Nathan and Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. And we have breaking news this hour. We take you to Washington, D.C. The Prime Minister and U.S. President Donald Trump, they're meeting there in the Oval Office. This is their second meeting, high stakes. Let's listen in live.
They had less than $1 trillion in 4 years. We have more than 17 trillion in 8 months. 8 months. And I think that number is going to be $22 trillion. There's never been anything like that in the history of the world for any country, not even close. If you did 1 trillion in a year, that's pretty good. We're going to do over 20. And it's coming in with AI, it's coming in with auto plants. We're building auto plants, a lot of auto plants in the U.S. It's coming in for a lot of reasons. It's coming in because of the fact, I think the November 5th election was a big factor, and I think the tariffs are a big factor. And again, we want Canada to do great, but there's a point at which we also want the same business. We're competing for the same business. That's the problem. That's why I keep mentioning one way to solve that problem is a very easy way. But we're competing for the same business. He wants to make cars, we want to make cars, and we're in competition. And the advantage we have is we have this massive market. So it's it's quite an advantage.
Mr. President, can we talk about Portland for a second? Are you planning to invoke the Insurrection Act? And that would be, a very long-standing law that's been on the books.
Yeah, well, it's been invoked before, as you know. If you look at Chicago, Chicago's a great city where there's a lot of crime. And if the governor can't do the job, we'll do the job. It's all very simple. They probably had 50 murders in Chicago over the last 5, 6, 7 months. Many people were shot. And then the governor gets up and he says, well, we can handle it. They can't handle it. They don't know what they're doing. The mayor is grossly incompetent. He's at a 4% approval rating in Chicago. He's at a 4%, lowest approval rating, lower than even de Blasio had, which is hard to believe in New York. I thought de Blasio would always maintain that record, but the Chicago guy is even lower. So I think that we want safe cities. If you look at D.C., you would right now, Mark, you could go out, take your family out to dinner, you could walk right down the middle of the street. There is no crime in D.C. When I got here, this place was a raging hellhole where people would come from Canada, people would come from other places and end up getting shot. Nobody's being shot. The National Guard's been unbelievable. I mean, they are strong, tough guys. You know, we won something at the Supreme Court, which is a big deal, merit. Everything now in this country is merit-based. I didn't think I'd ever see it again. And we have our soldiers are merit-based too, and they're central casting. And they walk through that town, and I'll tell you what, this place is safe. It's beautiful. Now we're in Memphis, and the same thing's happening. You're getting the reports. The bad guys are saying, we don't want anything to do with this. And we're removing many people. In D.C., we took out 1,700 career criminals and sent them back to the countries from which they came, mostly led out by Biden and his people that had an open border policy. And, you know, Canada, you suffered because of that, too, because they'd come here and they'd go into Canada also. So we're like a buffer for that in terms of Canada suffered greatly by Biden and the open border, the policy of open border, totally unchecked, totally unvetted. And these people were, you know, if you got 5%, 2%, you were getting a lot of bad people. And we now have a closed border. You've done well. We have a closed border, and it's a really closed border. In fact, for 4 months, I don't even know if this is possible, but the figures were released. 0 people were able to come into the United States from the southern border. 0. And as you know, we've taken a very hard stand on drugs. This is also benefiting you. A lot of we call them the water drugs, the drugs that come in through water. They're not coming. There are no boats anymore. Frankly, there are no fishing boats. There's no boats out there, period. If you want to know the truth, we're saying, does anybody go fishing anymore? The fact is, we knocked out, probably saved at least 100,000 lives, American lives, Canadian lives, by taking out all those boats coming in. So it's, and now they don't come in that way anymore. Now they'll come in other ways, and we're not going to allow that either. So we've done a great job on that. But on crime, Chicago's a great city, but you can't be a great city if you have murders and if you have a lot of problems, and they do. And they have an incompetent policy, just like they had open border policy. Anybody could come in. They came in from prisons. They came in from mental institutions, drug dealers. They came in from all over the place, and we don't have that anymore. This country is becoming we're a very strong country. Look, financially speaking, I would say that because of the tariffs, because of the election, because of the policy, because of the great big beautiful deal, it's what I added the word great because it really is. It's the biggest bill ever passed in the history of our country. We don't need another bill. It's the biggest tax cuts, I mean, when you think no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime for the people. But far beyond that, what it does is incentivizes auto plants and AI and all of the things that Nobody's ever passed a bill like it. We don't need another bill. We don't need any more bills. I said, let's get it all at once. I was greatly helped by our Speaker, Mike Johnson, and by the Senate. I'll tell you what, John Thune's been, both of those guys have been incredible. And we got a bill passed that I said, let's see if we can get it all done, because these Democrats are like insurrectionists.
You're watching President Trump and Mark Carney live this hour in the Oval Office. We're hoping to hear a little bit more about the Canada-U.S. relationship, so we are going to leave it here. But certainly this is a high-stakes meeting for Carney. He's back for a second time since being elected, and they're due to talk trade, security. Canada has dropped some retaliatory measures to de-escalate. Tariffs are weighing heavily on our country, and it's hopeful that somehow there could be some suspension of tariffs, but Trump did say earlier this week he's committed to them. So we'll leave it here, and we'll monitor the situation, and we'll bring you more as it becomes available. But we do want to stay on this topic.
Well, of course, we're going to wait to hear from Prime Minister Mark Carney as well. But until then, we'll follow what's happening as they're meeting right now in the Oval Office.
Tariffs, that's what we want to hear about. They're on the agenda. The Prime Minister is hoping to find a way to get a break on U.S. tariffs. We've got Colton Prale standing by with the latest on the situation. Hopefully we're able to listen in a little bit there. As I mentioned, it's the second trip. There's a lot of hope. A lot of Canadians hope that some relief can come from this meeting. What's your take on the situation?
Three things that are stood out to me so far. First off, the mention of the 51st state coming up twice. You saw the Prime Minister laugh it off the first time, saying that merger is not what he was talking about. But then Donald Trump did bring it up a little later on, and it was a little softer. He moved past it quickly. You didn't see the Prime Minister contest it as much. On relief for tariffs, interesting comments from the Prime Minister and from the President. The President saying that the two are going to spend some time, do some deals that are good for both of our countries and markets. That part, very interesting. Suggests that there is room here to negotiate, that it isn't necessarily cut and dry, but on steel specifically was also very clear in his desire to have a protected American steel industry. And he talked about the natural business conflicts that exist between the two countries due to their proximity and due to competing for the same production and also the same markets. And so there is potentially some ability to move forward here. You saw Trump say that they are working on formulas, and I think we'll get there. We had, of course, heard from government sources leading up to this meeting that they were cautiously optimistic. There was some wiggle room on steel tariffs in particular, but what's also crucial to note there is Donald Trump was not apologetic about the impacts of tariffs generally. He was not apologetic about the onshoring of Canadian businesses into the United States, and he was very clear that this is something he believes has immense economic benefit. And so it's highly unlikely you're going to see some sort of overwhelming resolution come out of this meeting. There may be a little bit of reprieve here and there, but Donald Trump was very clear why these tariffs are in place and how he believes they're beneficial. The last thing I think that is important to note here were his comments on the USMCA, or the CUSMA Free Trade Agreement between Canada, Mexico, and the U.S., where he said this is a complicated agreement, perhaps more complicated than any other agreement. There is natural conflict, but also mutual love. The big jeopardy for Canada is ensuring that that agreement and the exemption to most trade under that agreement remains in place. And this is something that is up for review in 2026, and there are a lot of questions as to what the U.S. is going to want in order to keep that in place, if they want to keep that in place. The suggestion there that they still value this agreement, but there's more areas of conflict that could come up in negotiations, and that lines up with what I've been hearing from former Trump trade officials over the past few days, who suggest that there could be some very tough negotiations ahead even prior to that review.
That's certainly difficult times. I know we'll let you get back to monitoring those two world leaders. We appreciate it. Colton Prale live for us in Ottawa.
Anytime.
To other news now, the Premier's office has responded to requests from several Ontario mayors to reconsider its decision to scrap automated speed cameras.
The Premier replied in his own letter, simply stating the answer is no. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has been following this story and joins us live with more. Siobhan.
Well, the Premier had been asked by a group of 20 mayors for some sort of reprieve to allow them to keep these speed cameras in some key areas, especially school zones. They say they were willing to make some adjustments to make sure that people weren't actually going to receive tickets unless they were driving 15, 20 kilometers over, adjust the cameras to only be operational during school hours. But as we heard from the Premier, it's a flat no.
What's unreasonable is a total cash grab. And we know speed cameras do not work. Simple as that. I have an idea that we're putting forward that we're going to put traffic calming infrastructure, and that will bring it down to zero. Folks, Toronto has one speed camera that produced over 70,000 tickets and millions of dollars of income. Now, wouldn't you think, rather than sit there and collect all the money, because it is a cash grab off the taxpayers, wouldn't you think someone would come up with common sense and say, okay, we're putting speed bumps on Parkside Drive, we're putting turnabouts.
Now, the legislation meant to ban speed cameras will be introduced early in the session, the fall session of the legislature. That convenes in about 2 weeks' time. The Premier announced today that there'll also be legislation to require all government agencies, where possible, to buy Ontario or Canadian-made goods. That's part of the ongoing trade war. He said today he wasn't entirely sure if the approach that Mark Carney has been taking is working. He suggests it may be time to turn up the pressure with some retaliatory measures, but he didn't say if things that Ontario could do, like an electricity surcharge, as was applied earlier this year, is back on the table. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan and Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. A cash-strapped Marineland says without emergency funding, by today, dozens of beluga whales could be euthanized. It's deadline day for an emergency funding request from Marineland in Niagara Falls as the park struggles to care for 30 beluga whales. The federal government recently denied permits to export the whales to China. Marineland says without funding, euthanasia may be the only option. Fisheries Minister Joanne Thompson calls the request inappropriate, saying the park is responsible for the animals' care.
In Stockholm, the second Nobel Prize of the week was announced today.
The Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences has today decided to award the 2025 Nobel Prize in Physics to John Clark, University of California at Berkeley, USA, Michel Devoret, Yale University and University of California at Santa Barbara, USA, and John Martinez, University of California at Santa Barbara, USA, for the discovery of macroscopic quantum mechanical tunneling and energy quantization in an electric circuit.
The scientists are being recognized for their research in a field that advances the power of everyday digital communications and computing.
Well, it may not have been ideal if you had outdoor plans today, but this rain was needed. We've, up until today, had no rain in the month of October. The last time we had measurable precipitation was back in September, the 25th. To be more specific. So here's a look at our satellite and radar imagery. This is a big picture look. We'll zoom in a little closer on New York State and specifically New York City and the Bronx. That is, of course, where the Blue Jays will be taking on the Yankees in that very important Game 3 of the ALDS. The start time of the game is about 8 o'clock tonight. Should be partly cloudy, but an increase in cloud cover is expected to happen. And before the game is finished, there could be some wet weather. No dome on Yankee Stadium, of course. We'll take it back to what you can expect here at home in the GTA for the next few days. It'll be drier after today, but cooler too. We'll look at your forecast after the break.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
Definitely a difference in the weather department today. Cloudier, wet to start the day. It still feels warm out there, but there has been a temperature drop from, the summer heat we had for days.
It's not a bad transition, though. It's not ridiculously cold, and the rain isn't coming down like cats and dogs, so it's okay.
Yeah, it's improved from this morning. We had some pretty heavy downpours early on. Depending on what time your commute was, you may have been impacted more than, say, another time. But it's true. It's a gradual drop in temperature. We're going to notice it probably more so into tomorrow and maybe Thursday morning, that change in what it feels like outside. But yesterday we had our first rain in almost 2 weeks, and we're not quite finished with it just yet. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm, the injury lawyers you don't pay. unless they win. We had a camera out this morning with eyes on our city skyline. It was dark, it was dreary early on. Yeah, some of that heavier rain fell through the very early morning hours, and gradually conditions have improved. There have even been some peaks of sun in parts of the GTA today. But as mentioned, we're not out of the woods just yet. More wet weather is on the way. If you are joining us from the west end of the GTA, you might be seeing a little bit of precip right now. Heaviest rain impacting areas like Fort Erie, St. Catharines, Niagara Falls, even Kingston getting clipped on the other side of that front. And then we've got some rainfall impacting Goderich over toward Owen Sound, Collingwood in the Blue Mountains, in and around Midland, Penetanguishene, and portions of southern Muskoka getting impacted by this wet weather. And along the north shore of Lake Erie, some embedded thunderstorms is something that we're watching too. So this is a big system. It's going to be with us through the rest of the afternoon and into the early part of the evening before it finally clears out. As mentioned, we're going to be watching New York City specifically as that system eventually tracks toward that area. Yeah, there's an important baseball game happening there a little later tonight, but hopefully the wet weather doesn't arrive until after the overnight hours. It's possible it'll arrive sooner than that, though. Rainfall accumulation, we could be in for another maybe 7 millimeters of rain here in Toronto, but again, Hamilton over toward Niagara, expected to see a little more than that. So we're in a lull right now for the most part, but there's what 3 p.m. is expected to look like. So if you're venturing out this afternoon, don't forget the umbrella. That rain could be heavy and steady at times, but there's 8 p.m. We're drying out. The cloud cover is going to be with us for the evening. It clears out overnight, and Wednesday is a mostly sunny day. So too is Thursday, but we are going to have northerly winds, and it is going to feel brisk out there, especially by Thursday morning. Here you can probably make out where the cold front is too. Much cooler in through central and northwestern portions of Ontario compared to the south. What a stretch of weather we've had. I do want to mention that yesterday we ended up making it to 28.1 degrees, but that was not a record. In fact, no day recently was. 21 is our high for today. There's the evening, 17 degrees. Let's try and get to your 7-day forecast to show you what's in store. 15 degrees for tomorrow, mainly sunny skies. And then here's that 7 day. So it's all calm heading into the Thanksgiving long weekend with temperatures rebounding back into the upper teens. That's the weather for now. Michelle, over to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. Well, another major traffic note to be aware of. If you use the Don Valley Parkway, the city says the southbound ramp from the DVP to Richmond Street will be closed next week until spring of 2026 for rehabilitation of the ramp structure. To accommodate the work, the city says one eastbound lane will be closed on Eastern Avenue. Richmond Street will be reduced to one westbound lane at Eastern Avenue, and there will also be intermittent overnight lane closures on the DVP. In Etobicoke, community concerns over a proposed shelter are now being taken to court.
A group of neighbors decrying a lack of public consultation now launching a lawsuit against their city councillor. CTV's Natalie Johnson has the details.
Behind this notice of development sits a parking lot slated to become a shelter.
No one's engaged with you to ask you how it might impact your life?
No, nobody. A site that some neighbors say is the right cause, wrong spot.
It will be a magnet for criminal activity. If you walk around the city, you can see it happening at almost every shelter.
The proposed 50-bed facility for seniors on 3rd Street in South Etobicoke is part of the city's plan to open as many as 20 new shelters across Toronto by 2033. The locations chosen by city staff amid cries from some residents that they were not consulted.
There are so many red flags across the board, and it seems that their need to hurry and shove this through has been greater than their own rules.
Now, in a push to stop the shelter on this site, a community group is launching legal action against their local councillor, who has for months faced backlash over the plan, as well as the consultant on the project.
It's just been a complete joke, like zero engagement. So at that point, we thought, what are the options? And this looked like our only option left.
The lawsuit alleges that the city's site selection process was negligent and procedurally unfair, and that the community consultation was biased, performative, and designed to limit the input of residents.
Local councillors don't have anything to do with the site selection.
Etobicoke Lakeshore councillor Amber Morley could not comment on the lawsuit itself, but stressed the need for the safe integration of the shelter into the community.
We've been navigating challenges with encampments, getting people who are currently unhoused or vulnerably housed situated to the supports that they need. We know that we need more supports and more local supports. And so this opportunity has come about, and as the local councillor, I'm supportive of the city moving forward with these necessary resources.
Meanwhile, the consultant named in the lawsuit told CTV News in a statement, quote, "My career has been focused on strengthening neighborhoods through inclusive policy, transparent governance, and grassroots engagement. My work is grounded in a belief that vibrant, equitable neighborhoods are built not just by policy, but by people."
These people don't have the luxury of being able to move.
The group behind the community-funded lawsuit says it hopes this court case will make the city think twice.
There's a good opportunity for the courts to look at this and say that from a democratic standpoint, you have to engage with your communities.
Pledging to reinvest any damages that could be awarded back into the community if the suit stops the shelter. Natalie Johnson, CTV News.
Still ahead, the Jays are not the only team hoping to advance in the postseason. Coming up, we'll take a look at where the other division series stand.
Earlier in the broadcast, we talked about the Blue Jays, but there's lots of other postseason baseball underway. The Seattle Mariners are in Detroit tonight for Game 3 of their AL Division Series.
Line drive, down the line, that's a fair ball!
Julio Rodriguez hit a tie-breaking RBI double in the 8th inning Sunday to lift the Mariners to a 3-2 win in Game 2. The series is tied at a game apiece. Logan Gilbert is expected to start for Seattle today, while Detroit counters with Jack Flaherty. First pitch is set for just after 4.
Suzuki drives one to left. That ball is gone!
In the National League, Seiya Suzuki hit a 3-run shot in the first for the Cubs, but Jackson Chourio and Andrew Vaughn each had a home run and 3 RBIs to lead the Brewers to a 7-3 win. Milwaukee leads that best-of-5 series 2-0. Game 3 in the series goes tomorrow night at Wrigley Field.
And in the other NLDS, Blake Snell allowed just 1 hit in 6 shutout innings, striking out 9 to help the Dodgers to a 4-3 win over the Phillies in Game 2 of that series. The defending World Series champs can reach their 17th National League Championship Series with a Game 3 win tomorrow in L.A. And last night's game fell on the 15th anniversary of Roy Halladay's no-hitter in the NLDS. His sons, Braden and Ryan, threw out the first pitch in honor of the late Phillies and Blue Jays legend who died in a plane crash in 2017. The Toronto Maple Leafs have released a video showing their support for our Blue Jays.
What do you want? Let's play ball. Okay. Okay. Blue Jays. Blue Jays. Let's play ball. Okay. Okay. Blue Jays. Blue Jays. Let's play ball. What do you want?
Several Leafs players spotted at the Dome over the weekend to cheer on their baseball counterparts. The Leafs open their season tomorrow at home against the Habs, and fans are hoping the Jays' playoff vibes are contagious.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
If you're buying a new or used car, you may be pitched gap insurance. It can pay off your loan if you owe more than what the car is worth.
Gap insurance can be expensive, and as one viewer found out, it doesn't cover everything if your car is written off or stolen. CTV's Pat Foran has this consumer alert.
In March of this year, Sujesh Putinvitil of Mississauga bought a 2023 Audi A4. Unfortunately, in June, just 3 months later, the car was stolen.
Middle of the night from my driveway.
With financing, he paid almost $54,000 for the car. Included in the price, he also paid for a 3-year maintenance package, a 6-year extended warranty, and gap insurance. Gap insurance is guaranteed asset protection. In the event your vehicle is totaled or stolen, it pays off your loan if you owe more than your car is worth.
I contacted the gap insurance. So they said they are not going to cover everything.
When the car was stolen, Putinvitil's insurance company paid just over $39,000 for the car, and the Gap insurance paid almost $6,400. But there is still an amount owing of $6,900. That's because Gap insurance doesn't cover things like warranties and maintenance packages.
Since I haven't used any of them, and I'm using my car only for 3 months, they should refund that to me.
Oftentimes, a lot of those products don't add any value to the vehicle. So if your vehicle is written off, but you owe thousands of dollars for all of the add-ons that you purchased, well, you're on the hook for that.
Car Help Canada says dealerships pitch expensive add-ons that may not be worth buying, and if you do, and your car is written off in an accident or stolen, you might not be reimbursed for them. If you're considering gap insurance, make sure you know what's covered before buying it.
Not only is gap insurance often very overpriced, but it's a product for a problem that should not exist to begin with.
Putin Vitil says his dealer offered to refund $600 for the maintenance package, and the warranty company offered him $250. He would still owe $6,000 for a car he no longer has.
Since I owe like $6,000, I don't have any plan to buy a car.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
Well, as we showed you earlier, the Prime Minister is in Washington as we speak, meeting with the U.S. President in the Oval Office, where Donald Trump was asked why there is no trade deal yet with Canada.
Well, it's a complicated agreement, more complicated maybe than any other agreement we have on trade, because, you know, we have natural conflict. We also have mutual love. You know, we have great love for each other. I love this. I love Canada and the people of Canada. And Mark feels the same way about here. The problem we have is that they want a car company and I want a car company, meaning the U.S. wants a car company. And they want steel and we want steel. You know, so in other countries, they're very far away. And there's no problem. You can compete and you can do. We don't like to compete because we sort of hurt each other when we compete. And so we have a natural conflict. It's a natural business conflict. Nothing wrong with it. And I think we've come a long way over the last few months, actually, in terms of that relationship.
You kindly hosted me and some of my colleagues a few months ago, and I said at the time, you are a transformative president. And since then, the transformation in the economy, unprecedented commitments of NATO partners to defense spending, peace from India, Pakistan through to Azerbaijan, Armenia, disabling Iran as a force of terror.
Carney is there with a Canadian delegation. They said going in, they're cautiously optimistic. Trump told reporters the U.S. wants to make its own steel and not import from other countries. Carney has made efforts to de-escalate this trade tension, dropping Canada's digital services tax and many retaliatory tariffs. We'll continue to monitor what's happening in D.C. And coming up, they were making a lifelong commitment and ended up making news. Meet the B.C. couple who happened to get engaged during a reporter's live hit. You don't want to miss this story. Stay with us. Finally, this noon hour, for reporters in the field, sometimes the story you're sent to cover is not the one that unfolds in front of your eyes or your camera.
And that was the case for our CTV colleagues in Victoria, who were sent to cover a union protest and ended up capturing a union of a different type. CTV's Adam Sawatsky explains.
They were seconds away from broadcasting live.
Yeah.
Rob in front of the camera, Orlando behind.
What's that?
When reporting on the first story in the newscast,
Kevin, striking public service workers
led to happening upon this last one.
But we have an engagement going on in front of me.
But Ella Van Enter didn't know that yet. She just thought she was visiting Victoria to show her boyfriend, Alex Benton, the BC Parliament buildings, one of her favorite places growing up.
And all of my best memories are here.
And over the past 2 years they've been dating, all Alex's best memories are with Ella. So he enlisted her sister and aunt to help with a surprise proposal here.
And when she met him, it was like instant. He hasn't even ever seen her disability.
Ella has cerebral palsy. And while Alex fell in love with her sitting in a wheelchair, he recalled her saying she'd never want to get engaged in one. So he secretly arranged for Ella to be able to sit in a clear chair for his proposal, framed by flowers.
Took me completely by surprise. I was not expecting this at all.
Well, Rob and Orlando weren't expecting it either.
Orlando, 10 seconds there, everybody.
But they do know a thing or two about covering breaking news.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome.
So they juggled between broadcasting opposing political sides saying no.
What's that?
And capturing an exuberant Ella saying yes.
She said yes.
The whole thing is so surreal. Like, I actually can't even believe this is happening right now.
I feel amazing. Yeah, I'm so happy that she's happy and that she was surprised. That was a big goal of mine.
While the goal of journalists is to ask the 5 W's, who, what, when, where, The most important part of this story is how these fiancés answered why.
I mean, I love you. That's pretty much all that needs to be said, I think.
Congrats.
Adam Sawatsky, CTV News, Victoria.
Beautiful story.
Aw, see?
My goodness.
You got to follow the puck.
Yeah.
That story is one to remember. Absolutely beautiful. Congratulations to them. Hopefully we'll be congratulating the Jays tonight on another win, clinching the series. The weather going to cooperate?
Well, hopefully it's raining champagne at some point in this series and not raining rain, which it might be in New York a little later on. It certainly will be here. Here's one more look at the satellite and radar. Prepare for it being a bit of an unsettled afternoon. And then overnight for us, we clear out and fall to a low of about 8 degrees, which is much closer to where we expect to be this time of year. There's our cool day for tomorrow. Nathan and Michelle.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. And that is it for CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great afternoon.